Good evening. It is Monday, August 26th in the year of our Lord 2024. I am Joe Allen, sitting in for Stephen K. Bannon, who is still sitting in prison, and we wait for his return with much anticipation. Now, one thing that Steve always talked about when discussing Donald Trump and his impact on American politics is that, number one, Trump is very much a political outlier. He is a very unusual politician. Number one, he's not a professional politician. At least he wasn't when he came on the scene in 2015. Trump has always been outside the box. And there are upsides and downsides to that. Steve oftentimes said, he emphasized, Trump is an imperfect instrument. But the second thing is that imperfect instrument, Donald Trump, has, to as much effect as he could muster, been a bulwark against globalism, against the excesses of leftism, and has been a defender of populists in America. A big part of that is a heterodox approach to politics and to public discourse in general, meaning that Donald Trump does not fit into the political orthodoxy. And in his current campaign, that really has begun to shine through. So you can see Donald Trump now getting the support of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And if there's anyone who is a political outlier, it would be Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yes, he has a lot of normie policies, but more than anyone else on that left side of the aisle, Robert F. Kennedy has been a staunch defender of American rights. He has been a huge opponent of big pharma. He's been a proponent of anti-war. He has been very much an outspoken critic of the party that he himself hails from. And I think that should be appreciated, even if you yourself do not in any way align with his policies. I suspect many of you do, but at least some of them. But it can at least be appreciated that we are at a moment in which this instability has provided an opportunity for all sorts of strange things to happen. And one hopes that in this upheaval, we're going to see some kind of differentiation allowed in our culture. We're going to see some degree of kind of collective individuation within the culture. And it's my hope that a partnership like Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy does represent a way forward that isn't some sort of homogeneous blob, some ideological monolith wrecking it, just bashing itself across the American culture, but rather something that will be a little bit more nuanced. Now, the one partnership that I've had a lot of misgivings about, of course, is Elon Musk. It can't be denied that Elon Musk has provided an enormous benefit for the MAGA right and for America in general and for the world in general by opening up the X platform to free speech, at least to a large degree. There are plenty of us still shadow banned, but at least you see the discourse churning. At least you see a lot of voices that would have been completely obliterated before. Now, that's the upside, alongside a certain degree of style that Mr. Musk brings to the public arena. But the downside, at least in my opinion, and Steve has been very outspoken on this as well, the downside is that free speech is being hoovered up and used to train sophisticated artificial intelligence systems that Mr. Musk believes will eventually lead to artificial general intelligence. And artificial general intelligence, as we've described many, many times over the past 3.5 years, is in essence a kind of digital god. And in order to keep up with that digital god, human beings, Elon Musk tells us, will have to take the trode, will have to take a Neuralink or something like it. And just a few days ago, Musk announced the second patient to receive a Neuralink, and he promised kind of in line with his singularitarian viewpoint, hurtling towards the technological singularity. Musk says, if all goes well, there will be hundreds of people with Neuralinks within a few years, maybe tens of thousands within 5 years, millions in 10 years. And as we've covered, his ultimate ambition is hundreds of millions or billions of people wired up to artificial intelligence, forming a kind of collective hive mind to compete with the artificial intelligence systems that he himself, along with many others, is developing. To talk about this, I'd like to bring in Noor bin Ladin, the great Noor bin Ladin. As you all know, Noor has been all over the transhumanist movement and pointing out its many downsides. Those of us who want freedom are very much appalled by the possibility of a collectivist hive mind or a hive mind in which we get to remain individuals, but we are absorbed in some sort of neurological metaverse. Noor, tell us about the dreamed utopia and whether or not you view it as a coming dystopia.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. And you just took the words out of my mouth. This is exactly what I was going to say. And I believe the first time we were on the show together, I said these exact words, that their utopia is our dystopia. And what they are building out, Elon Musk being an instrument very much of this infrastructure, is absolutely chilling and terrifying, and people really need to be paying attention to this, which is why, I'm very thankful that you're hosting the show and that you've invited me on to discuss all of these topics, because while there is a lot going on with the election and we need to be vigilant, many different psyops happening at the same time, this is very much a key topic that we have to be aware of.
Tell me, if we don't really talk about politics, you and I, on the show or otherwise, but I'm curious about your view on this strange alliance. It's almost as if Donald Trump has, the kind of pro-organic, pro-human, pro-health wing with Robert F. Kennedy, and then ostensibly Musk is always saying he's pro-team humanity, but an advocate for a humanity which is ultimately fused, in which we become human AI symbiotes. Do you think that tension is a balance, or is it maybe less bright of a future?
I can appreciate that President Trump is between a rock and a hard place, considering his position. And we cannot know everything that is happening behind closed doors with these discussions. What I will say is that I am incredibly wary of Elon Musk and his role in this push for the bio-digital convergence that we're seeing advance as we speak, and which you talk about so well in your work, Joe. And I've been very distrustful of Elon Musk since the very beginning, since he actually was allowed or permitted to purchase X. And I would characterize his role or his tenure at X, at the helm of X, well, certainly not as generously as you have. I think it's a total illusion when you look at how people are being shadow banned on the platform. And I think obviously the Twitter files, although confirm certain things, were definitely a limited hangout. And essentially, I view X as a major honeypot and weapon in the psychological warfare that we are being subjected to. And Elon Musk is very much a big part of that.
Well, Noor, I'm always thankful for the little droplets of algorithmic gruel that I get to slurp up in my tiny little social media ghetto. So, we were talking yesterday and this morning about a new report from the World Economic Forum that outlines 4 different dangers in this post-pandemic moment that we find ourselves in. And especially interesting to me was the 4th section of that document. in which they lay out possible threats post-pandemic. I think the first was the possibility of extremist groups and acts of terrorism. The second is the potential for a cyber pandemic, as they put it, for a mass cyber attack. And the third, of course, as always, climate change. Can you walk us through that? Tell us what it is they're getting at, and maybe read between the lines a bit as to what they're really getting at?
Absolutely, Joe. This is a very important article that I think the policy really needs to read. It was published on August 19th, just a few days ago, and the exact title of the piece is "4 Global Risks to Look Out For in the Post-Pandemic Era." And so they've identified 4 global risks. The last one is very much the more ominous one, so I'll get to that one in a moment. But I'll just walk through the first 3, if I may. So the first one is power disperses in a post-superpower era. And essentially, this first risk is all about the fact that America is no longer a global superpower. And obviously, that is by design, as I've discussed many times on the show over the past few years. The WEF even announced in 2016 in an article that America's dominance was over, and that by 2030 we would have several or a handful of global powers. And this is the direction in which they purposefully led the world towards, because they do not want America as a leading force in the world. So that was the first one, and obviously that is what they're pushing for in terms of a gateway for a one world government. The second global risk that they're talking about is a big election year won't stop our recurrent crisis of political legitimacy. And so if you read the paragraph dedicated to that specific risk, if you read between the lines, obviously it's all about crushing disinformation and dissent. And if you go back to my reporting in January when I was in Davos, I'd like to remind the audience, that they had published their global risks report, and the number one threat that they identified for the next 2 years was disinformation and misinformation. And you just have to look at the state of all of the countries in the West and how in all of our individual nations or countries, there is such a massive crackdown on speech and on dissent going on, whether it's in the UK, as we've seen in the past few weeks, and the madness that is going on there, people being jailed for memes, etc. In Switzerland, there are insane cases as well that I'll be talking about and writing about from my Substack in the next few days. It's just across the board, Germany, France, everywhere. So that was the second global risk. The third global risk is a more complex global mental health crisis. And they are talking about the fact that since COVID, since the lockdowns, since all of these drastic measures, the mental health of people has declined drastically. And obviously that was very much engineered and designed to be so, as a result of the fear porn, the isolation, and the destruction of jobs, etc. And now they're talking about a continuation of this using eco-anxiety, this is how they've termed it, and AI as reasons for people, as reasons that people are becoming more and more anxious. And, it's always the same playbook, Joe. They manufacture crises or pretexts, and then they come and say that they have the solution. So it's absolutely their fault, obviously, with this whole climate change scam and what they are actually devising with these AI weapons that are to be deployed on the population in the context of the psychological warfare in order to confuse and create exactly that anxiety in the population. And this brings me to the... Yeah.
If I could pause you there, just, those second 2 points that you mentioned, the kind of global mental health crisis, and obviously a lot of people were driven insane by the policies that in many ways were formulated and passed through the World Economic Forum and their proxies, and then also this specter of climate change and the issue of the kind of ravenous hunger for power in the form of electricity and fuel. But artificial intelligence is at the center of both, right? Like you have with the pandemic propaganda dispersal, it was all done obviously through targeted algorithmic methods. And with the climate change issue, we hear over and over again, both from people like Larry Fink at BlackRock, but also much more now from Donald Trump, that we're going to need twice the power output in order to build these AI systems. And so you're exactly right. They are, I mean, the World Economic Forum they don't have data centers under the Alps and Davos, but they are the ideological hub for all these companies, in many ways the mouthpiece for all these companies building the AI systems that are supposedly causing these dramatic climate impacts.
Yeah, the WEF, or the World Economic Forum, really functions as a PR arm for the globalists and as a hub, as you just mentioned, where these negotiations and where the coordination happens, for these public-private partnerships, as they call them. So they are the middleman, so to speak, between all of these stakeholders. It's the forum through which they manage to then roll out the agenda. And obviously, this is what I've been reporting on, for the War Room over the past few years, and their crowning event, takes place in January every year, and essentially it's a way for them to announce to the public what it is we can expect, and the direction in which they're planning to take the world.
And I didn't mean to derail you before you got to the final 3 points that are nestled into that fourth point. Sorry.
No. It's important to put it in context. And so I'll just continue with that last fourth point in the article. So the last and fourth global risk is an era of shock events. As I mentioned, it's the one that sounds the most, threatening and ominous. And they are essentially announcing what we can expect over the next few months, and the pretext that they are going to use in order to crack down on our freedoms and implement their different policies that inevitably lead again to the loss of our freedoms. And so they have identified three key, quote, shock events that we need to consider. The first one is a new global extremist group emerges. And they say that as the world is being distracted with multiple wars and leadership in decline, they're talking about the opportunity of new extremist groups to emerge, and how it's going to be a new form of terrorism or a new phase of terrorism. So it's a little bit vague, but apparently we can expect more terrorist threats in the future. And obviously they will be having solutions as to how they're going to provide for security in the face of these threats. The second one is a cyber pandemic that is intentional. And they go on to refer to the CrowdStrike event of July, and how that was just due to faulty software. And how we should be imagining if there's a situation where it's actually done on purpose and there's a, quote, bad actor that actually does such an event and on a much bigger scale. And that's very important, because it'll bring me to what I'd like to talk about after I finish the third point. And the third point is climate change claims its first island nation in the post-pandemic era. And so they're saying that, there is going to be an island that is going to succumb to climate change and is going to sink below the levels of water. So more fear mongering. And we know, Al Gore's documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, came out, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, and none of these predictions were right. So it's just basic propaganda. So the one that really caught my attention is the one about the cyber attack, because they have been doing these simulations now since 2020, the cyber polygon simulations. And there is an upcoming cyber polygon simulation actually in a couple of weeks taking place in Saudi Arabia in the context of a broader conference, the MENA ISC conference, which stands for Middle East, North Africa Information Security Conference. So that will take place on the 10th and 11th of September, and in parallel, the WEF will be there conducting this cyber attack simulation, or cyber pandemic simulation, as they also refer to it. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that as well. So they have quite the program laid out, and we need to be very mindful when such events or shock events will be foisted onto us, the population. And obviously to use discernment and not panic, and I would add not comply.
Don't panic, don't comply. I can't imagine better advice for anyone who wants to remain at least an approximation of human. Noor, so in the last couple of minutes we have here, just again, tell us where we can go to follow your coverage, and what are the two upcoming events again, just so people have it on their radars and are ready to take this information in.
Yeah, September is going to be a jam-packed month, actually. There's also ongoing negotiations at the WHO taking place here in Geneva, but also in Africa, with the whole new fear-mongering campaign surrounding Mpox. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. I just mentioned the cyber polygon simulation by the WEF on September 10th and September 11th. And then there is going to be the big event of the year, the UN General Assembly taking place in New York between the 10th of September and the 28th of September. And two other key dates within the UNGA to know about is September 22nd and 23rd, where within the conference or the General Assembly, they're going to have the Summit of the Future. And I'll be back on to discuss this on the show because it's a big one. The Summit of the Future, I'll just read an excerpt so the people, the posse, can know what to expect. The Summit of the Future is supposed to be the forum whereby the UN member states will adopt the Pact for the Future, which includes a declaration on future generations and a global digital compact as annexes. Together, they will address important issues ranging from peace and security to digital cooperation. So this is going to be a big one.
Noor, real quick, give people your website. The clock is running out and the music is playing. Vaudeville hooked.
Thank you, Joe. NoorBinLaden.substack.com and NoorBinLaden.online, and on X, Noor Bin Laden.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you back on the War Room. Much appreciated.
In these crazy times, there is peace of mind in security. Security for our country, security for our leaders, and security for our families. But you're not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation. With Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Secure your family's savings today. Text Bannon to 989898 and receive a free info kit on gold. Plus, this August only, Birch Gold is giving away free Trump silver coins with any purchase. This brand new one-of-a-kind silver coin features Trump boldly raising his fist in the moments after the attempt on his life. Don't miss your chance to own this special piece of history, a celebration of a leader dedicated to our security, preserved in the security of a precious metals coin. Secure your savings today and get your free Trump silver coins. Text Bannon to 989898 today. That's Bannon to the number 989898. You all recognize Jim Rickards as a regular guest and wise man of the War Room. His grasp of the intersection between geopolitics and capital markets is unmatched. His financial newsletter, Strategic Intelligence, is essential reading for anyone concerned about protecting your own wealth. As you've seen during his War Room appearances, Jim has a knack for making the complex simple. And every month, Strategic Intelligence cuts through the noise and delivers actionable financial guidance. Plus, War Room members get a free copy of Jim's The New Case for Gold. This is an amazing follow-up to Ron Paul's classic. And what makes Jim's book even more crucial is that he's not a gold bug. He'll help you understand gold's significance on the global stage as well as in your own portfolio. Go sign up now and claim your free book at our exclusive website, rickardswarroom.com. That's rickardswarroom.com.
All this nonsense, all this spin, they can't handle the truth.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
All right, Posse, welcome back. If you are interested in following some of the work I've been doing on not only technology, although that's always a heavy element, but increasingly religion, have a look at my site, joebot.xyz, Singularity Weekly, and the Omega Point podcast. The latest piece up today, Religion Goes Digital. But enough about me. If you are wondering, by the way, how I maintain these transhuman levels of energy, it is coffee. I get zero sleep. I almost never eat, but I drink just gallons of coffee. And if you want to support Steve Bannon, if you want to support the War Room, go to warpathcoffee.com. Warpath.coffee. Sorry, www.warpath.coffee, and order some. Promo code Bannon. Help support the War Room until Steve is back to scorch the earth. Now, I want to bring in a man whom I respect tremendously, Tim Hinchliffe of The Sociable. Tim's got a new article up about a program or a declassified document out of the Office of the Department of National Intelligence. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Maybe I should let him speak about this. Dealing with the intel agencies using publicly available information and commercially available information to hoover up the public and private aspects of our lives. Tim, welcome back to the show. If you will, just tell us the title of the article, where people can find it, and what's it about.
Oh, thanks for having me back on. Yeah, the title is "The U.S. Spy Community is Looking for Cheaper, Quicker Ways to Access and Buy Your Data." It can be found at sociable.co.
Yeah. So what's the score? Is it worse than it was a year ago, or is it just us hurtling headlong into a worldwide panopticon?
So what it is, it's a continuation of what was declassified last year. So last year they declassified the Office of the Director of National Intelligence report saying basically that yes, we buy this commercially available data, and we do this because it has incredible intelligence value. And so it's a way of skirting around the Fourth Amendment there, just because they want to buy it instead of actually getting a warrant. But so last year it was declassified, but it was going on from the year before. The original ODNI report was from January of 2022. So the research was being conducted in 2021. So it's been going on for a little while. And then in May of this year, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence came out with a policy framework for how to get this data, what kind of data can we hold, and just kind of little safeguards, which basically kind of saving their butts on this, try to cover themselves. But through this new one is an unclassified document that I'm just reporting on. It came out on just last Thursday. I saw it on Friday morning and immediately saw like, oh, this is going back to what was, the big news a year ago. So what's going on now is that the Director of National Intelligence, they're putting together something called the Intelligence Community Data Co-op, ICDC. It's got a real rock and roll sound to it. And what they're looking to do with it is leverage a data co-op model to reduce the aggregate cost of commercially available information and publicly available information, and accelerate and improve the intelligence community's acquisition and access to that information. So, and they're also talking about wanting to adhere to legal and policy requirements. So this is what goes back to the policy standards that they were setting in May. But the problem is, they still buy the data. So what they're doing is saying like, okay, we're going to consider, what legal. Well, they will consider the privacy parts to it, but they don't have to adhere to them. And when it comes to sensitive commercially available information, what this new program is doing is that it lets them almost set up a one-stop shop. So they're looking for people to vet for the commercial data brokers. They're looking for a way to make it cheaper, more efficient, quicker. They're just streamlining the entire process. So they're killing two birds with one stone. One, they're like, okay, we got to do the legal stuff, and we're going to make up our own policy so we can police ourselves on that. But at the same time, we're making buying up all your data way more efficient.
Yeah, it's astounding. It's astounding to me. You know, Tim, something that bothers me about all of this is how rapidly it became normalized. It was the mid-aughts, and people had already become acclimated to the idea that not only corporations, not only the government, but even other private citizens could get a hold of massive amounts of scraped data and find out all these personal things. Like a normal human being in 1990, for them, the idea that you would have somebody following you around everywhere you went on the street, maybe peering into your living room, maybe peering into the bathroom, maybe peering into the bedroom, reading your journals, reading your letters, listening to your phone calls, all of this would have just been completely off the table. Habeas corpus gives us the right to privacy unless there is a warrant for a search. And now, basically, we're all subject to search and possible seizure every moment of every day, anywhere we go.
And this is what the intelligence community, they acknowledge this in the declassified report from last year. It says that commercially available information increases the power of government. And they actually quote, the government would never have been permitted to compel billions of people to carry location tracking devices on their persons at all times, to log and track most of their social interactions, or to keep flawless records of all their reading habits. Yet all these things like smartphones, connected cars, web tracking technologies, Internet of Things, all this together, it's like, it's all out there. That information is available, and people are just giving it up. So when you sign up to a service that's free, you are paying with your data, and then the government comes and takes your tax dollars and then buys that data from the data brokers. And they even give who those data brokers are: Accenture, Axiom, CoreLogic, Epsilon, Intellius, LexisNexis, Oracle, Thomson Reuters, and Verisk are the major ones as of December 2021. So all those ones. And going back to what the new ICDC request for information is about, they want to vet these people, put them all together, make sure, what kind of information do you have? Do you have this kind, this kind, this kind? Is it sensitive or not? Doesn't matter. We're going to take all of it. And we know that you're taking data from U.S. citizens and the world. It's all there in one point. So what this new what they want to do with the data co-op thing, is to just organize all of that in a cheaper, quicker, and more efficient way.
Yeah, this has been known, we've known it for a long time, but, after 9/11, with the introduction of the Patriot Act and the various systems that were put in place, it was pretty clear that these corporations were functioning to some degree as partners with intel agencies and security services to give up our personal data. And again, now here we are, almost 23 years later, and we are in the same boat, but we are so much more saturated in digital technology, as you mentioned a moment ago. we're so much more willing to allow these companies to just probe us in and out as if we had been abducted and brought on board a UFO and getting the old probe. I wonder, Tim, you've thought about these problems for a long time. When thinking about solutions like data ownership, just data privacy legislation, what seem like the most promising paths to either turn back the clock or, God forbid, go into the future with at least a little bit more padding to protect us from the old UFO probes?
Well, turning back the clock, it's hard because you can't see the the totalitarian tiptoe, a little step by step, bit by bit. Like I'm seeing it now, but it's coming into it way too late in the process. So, I mean, just the geo tracking, one of the biggest things I see is just carrying around a smartphone everywhere and how that tracks and traces you. I didn't get a smartphone until, was it last year or something? And I didn't even have a phone for 6 years. And now when I do have a phone,
sir.
I keep it turned off in a drawer, because once you take it somewhere, that is what it is it pings other things that are around you. And what the commercial available information is, that's just more like cookies, just following around, knows where you've been. There's a million data points that are just going right into it. So turning back the clock, it's just knowing that was built into the system, and if you look at where big tech companies come from, where they originate, Silicon Valley, from defense and intelligence departments. I wish I would have known more about that early on, because it's almost like the companies, they say they're using it for advertising purposes and to sell you stuff you don't need probably, but is more tailored to you. But they're born out of the government grants and research programs, and it's just a continuation of it. So it's like the Office of Director of National Intelligence is saying, like, well, we couldn't actually physically we couldn't force all these people to carry around all these devices that take up all the information. But now that they've got them, well, we can't just be blind to all that. We need to take advantage of it, because if we don't, the bad guys will.
Yeah, I think that's something really important about the document that you've unearthed and that you've covered, is that we've all kind of known, but this highlights these specifics. So when you go to tell your neighbor the reason that you're using a flip phone, or why they need to actually walk over to talk to you about whatever it is you got going on in the garden, you at least have some facts laid out. And that's one thing I love about your articles, is that it's so easily digestible. These are very complicated documents that you're oftentimes going over, but you give it these very crisp bullet points so that people can understand it, and that gives them the information that when they're discussing these matters, they don't sound like wild-eyed lunatics, but perhaps sound like experts in their field or something close. So, Tim, if you would just one more time, tell us, where can we find the article, maybe some of the other articles you're working on, and let us know how to get there.
Oh, yeah. So for the website, sociable.co, I've got sections. I mean, if you look at just the homepage, that's filled with the latest, but I also got sections on the Great Reset, central bank digital currencies, digital ID, military technology, all that kind of stuff. On X, it's at the Sociable, or my name as well, at Tim Hinchliffe. And for the stuff looking at the future, is a lot of almost everything that Noor bin Ladin was talking about. So I'm going to be looking at the Summit of the Future next month, Cyber Polygon. And then also, I do believe in the end of September is normally when the World Economic Forum has their Sustainable Development Impact meetings as well. So like she said, September is going to be a huge month. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for Tim Hinchliffe for the War Room Posse. He was all over the World Economic Forum before anyone, and it's some of the most easily accessible information that you're going to get. As I always like to say, Tim, it's because you're on the cutting edge that people are always ripping off your work as if they were rioters in a jewelry store in the Beverly Hills. So, keep up the good work, sir. We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back.
Oh, thank you so much. Very appreciated. Thanks.
Have a good one. All right. If there's any man on earth that understands the danger of having the federal flying saucers flying around him and probing all of his private information, it is Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell, very glad to have you here, sir. What do you have for us?
Well, I'll tell you, just last week you talk about that. The Attorney General of Minnesota went after my Lindell Recovery Network, my Lindell Foundation, my charities. So what do we do to fight back and help my employees? We're having the biggest sale we've ever had with the stuff we make right here in the USA. And that the first one is our My Pillow mattress topper, just in time for the college, for the dorm rooms and everything. Our twin extra long for the dorm rooms is $69.98. Here, the queen size, $99.98. King size, $119.98. You turn any bed into the best bed in history. This is the My Pillow patented foam with just on the queen alone, with over 14,000 comfort supports. So we have that special, and then we're going to combine it with the other one we make inside our factory, and that's the premium My Pillow. The premium My Pillow, we have the queens for $19.98, kings just $5 more. This is the ones we've sold over 83 million My Pillows, and my employees appreciate everything that you guys do for them at the War Room Posse. You can go to the website and use that promo code War Room. You get there. What we're doing, we're giving you a multi-use My Pillow 2.0 free, absolutely free. Just pay shipping or with any purchase. And then you have all these specials we have there exclusive for the War Room. The closeout and overstock sale you see there, saving up to 80%. That's a War Room exclusive. All the sleepwear, the loungewear, all our clothing lines, we're closing them out. We're overstocked on some. Take advantage of that. And remember, you guys call 800-873-1062. That's 873-1062 to get all these specials from our operators online. And they're all USA employees too, by the way, on my call center. And also, one more thing, you guys remember the War Room Posse. You can also use the promo code War Room at mystore.com. That was Steve's favorite, you guys, when you went there. He loves those USA entrepreneurs, USA products. Mystore.com. Go there. There's thousands of USA-made products. And I told Steve we were going to break records while he was in there, and we're going to break records. And he, there you go. You have My Store, all the products there. There's the Make Honey Great Again. We've got those there. All the clothing, the My Pillow gummies, those gummies. We have
Mike, if I could ask you real quick, what's going on with those gummies? Are those vitamins?
Yeah, they're vitamins. They're ashwagandha, I believe, is one of the things. Because I know I take them. I just don't. I know they're good for you. I do take them. But yeah, there's so we have so many products. People always come up to me on the road. They go, Mike, we're supporting you. We got every My Pillow product and My Store product. We have thousands. You guys need to shop there. Use the War Room promo code and just do all your shopping there, supporting these USA entrepreneurs at mystore.com. That gets it's another platform. It's funny they attacked that one 3 years ago, but they just keep attacking and we just keep fighting back with specials.
Well, ain't nobody going to deny that you are always fighting, Mike. We really appreciate you coming on. And this no mustache look, I think, you looked a lot tougher. Now you seem like a much more approachable man. I feel like I could just come up and say howdy. Before I thought maybe you'd hit me.
It was kind of funny at the DNC last week when I came out of there after being in there for 4 or 5 hours. There was all these protesters, the Palestinian protesters, and then there were protesters protesting me being in the DNC. Well, the one protester group attacked the guys went after the guys that were attacking me. So I ended up taking pictures, the whole protest, pictures with everyone there. And I think one thing everybody can agree on, they all want a great night's sleep, and they all had, so I got them all to agree. We could agree on that. And the other thing they all agreed on, by the way, was paper ballots hand counted. So I had two things in the DNC to get them all to good pillows, good sleep, and paper ballots hand counted. What a combination.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mike. Mike Lindell, building bridges with the left. This is, I think, to wrap up on a note of heterodoxy, to have a mustacheless Mike Lindell getting some sort of positive response at all, let alone to make friends with Democrats at the DNC. Who knows? Maybe CW2 isn't inevitable after all. Thank you very much, War Room Posse, for joining us this evening. Again, if you are curious about any of the work I've been doing on race, robots, and religion, head on over to jobot.xyz for Singularity Weekly, articles every Monday, and the Omega Point podcast every Thursday. Godspeed and God bless.